All right, we're live. Mic check, visual check. Good morning, everyone. 7:34 a.m. Eastern, a few minutes late, just kind of getting the new setup going here. As you can see, trying to make it a little bit more user-friendly. Steve, can you let me know if the audio is coming through and if I'm clear in my new spot down there in the lower left-hand corner? I've got additional lights I can put on, but I think it's looking all right for the time being. Then we will get into some analysis. Clear? Okay, cool. And the pictures coming through okay? I'll just assume it is unless you tell me it's not. So thanks for that. Appreciate it. Hope you guys had a nice weekend. Let me look. Yeah, exactly. Now I'm part of the chart, so I think this is just a little bit more. It's cleaner. It's more interactive. I can be like a weatherman. I can point, be like, you know, we'll get like a really big studio, and I can point at the charts like this. All right, guys. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you were able to take advantage of longing the ultra bonds on Friday. When I left, I had a good trade on that, and I did my best to keep you guys aware of that. So hopefully you were able to take advantage of it. Those who saw it. I went ahead and set up the elite members chat for elite members who are taking the course. And that's where I'm going to post all of my after hours commentary. If I'm finished streaming, but I'm eyeing a trade that I want to take, I'm going to let elite members know. So I now have a place where I can do that. I just have to get in the habit of doing that now. So that'll be pretty cool. Good way to communicate after hours. When I get tired of streaming, but I'm still trading. I'm just not, in front of the camera. So that's a quick and easy way to just keep, members updated of what's going on. So that's nice. I am sick today. I've got a bit of a cold, nothing major, but, not feeling, 1000%. So I'm going to stream as long as I feel I can go. I'm excited. I want to make some money, and I think we will. So we'll certainly give it our best shot and stream for as long as my energy levels can hang in there. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Yeah, the members area is going to be really cool because that's where I can just keep you guys updated. I mean, just by catching that trade on Friday when I was done streaming, you guys, I don't know how many contracts you would have put on it, but you could have made, $500. That trade literally lasted 5 minutes. I can go over that later when we have a little bit of dead time. Let's go ahead and prepare for our 8 a.m. check here. It's coming up in about 20 minutes. And I don't need to rehash all the higher time period analysis right now. Needless to say, the bottom line is what's going on is that stocks are squeezing higher, and we still don't know if bonds or the US dollar are really in agreement with that. So I wouldn't get too excited and start chasing stocks up here. I would be careful, exercise caution. I've been very cautious on stocks the last week and a half, because whenever you get to these major tops, you get a lot of cross flows, and they're very dangerous places to trade until you have your new direction established. So we're waiting to see if our new direction that's going to be established is going to be to the upside or to the downside. Right now, I'm still heavily leaning toward the downside for a number of reasons, market internals, what I'm seeing with Owings market analysis, all these different things, but we still need to wait and see. And one of the major reasons I'm so bearish on stocks is because bonds are getting absolutely hammered, which means rates are pushing higher, the dollar is stronger. So these two things, bonds going down and stocks going up, they can only diverge for so long until they meet again. So the question is, who's going to catch up or down to who? Are bonds going to catch up to stocks, or are stocks going to catch down to bonds? I think stocks are going to catch down to bonds, but we got to wait and see. With all that said, that's kind of where we are in the bigger picture. I am still going to be looking to trade the bonds, trade the metals. If I see anything good on the indices, of course, I'll take them. And we will analyze the indices because it's a good way to keep track of what's going on across all the different asset classes, right? For our cross asset class correlation analysis. But I'm going to be very careful about actually executing any trades in the indices today again. And those are my reasons for that. So I hope that makes sense. The bonds, just, people are so locked into the indices. You got to trade ES, you got to trade NQ. You don't have to do that. You can just trade the bonds or the metals. Or even, crude sometimes is setting up nicely. So there are plenty of markets here to focus on. Why not try and focus on the lowest hanging fruit instead of dealing with the indices when they're an absolute mess? That's my way to think about it anyways. So that's where we're at. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm going to go ahead and jump into what we're setting up for the 8 o'clock hour. So you can see ES is in front of us. We've got the 15-minute chart over here to the right. So this is the 15-minute chart here. This is the hourly chart. This is the 4-hourly chart. And then we've got all my volume profile charts, monthly, weekly, daily charts, all these other things on these other screens. But this is the main focus screen. And what we're going to do is continue to use the hourly chart to just wait for good setups each hour. And as you now know, by being here, when we do that, we're able to patiently wait and be selective and pick off, high probability trades every single day. And that doesn't mean that every single trade works, but it does mean that over the long run, we have a very nice edge that gives an equity curve that goes steadily to the upside. And that's all you can ask for as a trader. All right. So for ES here, as I mentioned, here's the daily. You can see, just bring it over. This is a daily chart. We are squeezing higher, obviously. But look, guys, I think I'll show you in a bit what I think we're setting up for. I'll draw it out for you. It's not pretty. I don't know if I'm going to be, right or wrong. It's not really about being right or wrong. It's about doing the analysis and then letting the charts tell us if that analysis is correct or not. And then we simply adapt to what's happening, right? We trade what's in front of us. We don't trade what we hope is going to happen or what we think is going to happen, right? So that's very important to use the data that's in front of us. That's all we have. But I think stocks are setting up for a brutal reversal, and I'll explain why later. So right here, I say all that because the hourly is trending up nicely here on ES. And okay, do I want to get involved? No, I don't, because this thing is going to continue to be very volatile up here. And the same is going to be for the NASDAQ. We'll take a quick peek at it just so we know where we're at heading into the 8 o'clock hour. I got to check the news as well. So I'll check that in just a second. So here you can see the NASDAQ hourly kind of in congestion here, pushing higher. Again, this is just, where's this market going today? Anybody's guess. We could push up to 17.7. We could slam back down. It just, you really don't know. So that's why I'm going to be extremely careful here for the indices. And I recommend, even if you're not, here trading with us and taking my picks, that's fine. Just, I would recommend being very careful with the indices because they're not really the lowest hanging fruit right now. So we don't need to look at the Dow and the Russell right now. We will, when we see something of interest on the indices. But let's now use this analysis on the indices. Even though we're not trading them, let's use them to frame the overall structure of the market today, like we did on Friday, right? We weren't trading the indices, but how did I know that bonds might be a pretty good buy there heading into the afternoon? It's because stocks were ramping. I thought, you know what? If stocks are tipping us off to the fact that bonds are now probably going to rally because somebody big, the Fed, somebody is stepping in and supporting the bond market there. You could see that on Friday. That's why stocks were ripping. So when I saw stocks ripping, I didn't want to buy stocks, but they certainly tipped me off that all the support patterns I was seeing with Owings market analysis in the bond market were telling me, hey, this is probably a pretty good spot to buy bonds, right? So this is why we use stocks, bonds, metals, the dollars all together, because when you know what to look for, you can get tipped off to excellent trades in other markets based on what all these markets are doing as a whole, as a collective unit. It's so important, right? So that's why we're going to follow stocks, even though I'm not nuts about actually trading them today. So I hope that that makes sense. Let's go ahead and look at the 10-year. So looking at the 10-year, the daily's going for congestion entrance up, meaning rates are coming down. My resistance area on the 10-year is up around 112 and 430 seconds, somewhere up there. So we'll see. I think bonds could, based on what stocks are doing, again, using stocks to tip us off right now, I think that we could continue to see a little bit of a relief rally in bonds just because of what stocks are signaling, that the rates are going to continue to maybe ease off a little here temporarily with the bonds, right? Now, does that mean we're out of this, this big move to the downside for bonds? I don't think so at all, but you never know, right? This is why we trade the market that's in front of us. Today, to me, it looks like you're probably going to have a lot of support on the 10-year. I'm just looking at some of my other charts here, you guys. A lot of support on the 10-year down into about 111.10. So you can see here on the hourly chart in front of us, this 111.10 area is about here for the 10-year treasury, right? So for today, you know, I'm probably more interested in buying bonds today, believe it or not, because I think we're going to see a continuation of what we saw on Friday. Okay. So this is how you piece this together. Even if we're overall bearish bonds, based on the monthly, the weekly, all these higher time period charts are suggesting continued bearishness in bonds, but that doesn't mean that the daily is not going to have, a 2 or 3 day relief rally. And we don't want to sit here, with our thumb up our, what, waiting. We want to say, oh, well, bonds are going up right now. Well, if we get a good pullback pattern on bonds, we want to try and buy them. So I think I will be, I'll still be careful, because you always got to be careful when you're going against the higher time period energy, the monthly, the weekly charts. But right now it looks like, playing bonds from the long side is not a bad idea. So looking at the daily here, and I'm using the 10-year just because it's the most liquid market in the world, and it gives us a really good read into the other markets and what's going on. So looking at the 10-year treasury here, what we can see is, especially when we look at the volume profile and we look at OMA. So with OMA, we can see very clearly trending down. Now we're popping up, trying to enter congestion to the upside. We'll see how far we get up here, but certainly there is a ton of support here at about 111.10 where I outlined. But I want to bring your attention to the volume profile, which you can see, right now we are basically right in here. Let's go ahead and draw this out. There you go, right? So you see this is the fat part of the volume profile down here. That means what? That means that these are accepted prices for the time being. Remember, this is the composite profile, right? This is not the daily. I have the daily, weekly profiles, monthly profiles on the other charts. This is the composite, right? So this is all the volume that's been traded recently on the March contract here for the 10-year treasury note. So what does this mean? If prices are accepted here, and this was the previous area of acceptance up in here, right? Then I'm expecting probably, this either this low volume area here is going to reject price, or we're going to rip straight through it and retest this previous area of acceptance up in here. So let's see what happens. Right now, based on the weekly, it looks to me on the weekly like we want to probably challenge up here to the near high, like I said, the low 112s. So if that's the case, that is actually where you can see right here that that's the most accepted traded price on the composite is right there at about 112. So we'll see if we get there or not, but that's something that I would be looking for on bonds. And if that's the case, then we need to be looking to buy them on pullbacks, right? Very important. So with all of that said, do we have anything here, on the hourly chart here for 8 a.m.? Well, no, we're trending up, but my support area that I'm interested in is more, it's down in here. So I don't want to buy here if I think my daily support has the strongest chance of holding here. So we'll wait. Let's look at the 30-year. We'll go into more analysis as well on the 30-year and the ultra bonds in a sec, but we just did the 10-year in a lot of depth. And the game plan for the 30-year and the ultras is the same. I do have to say that the 30-year and the ultras, they have very similar chart patterns. But they have slightly different volume profiles. So we'll go over that in just a second. I want to quickly make sure I don't miss anything for the 8 o'clock hourly close here. You can see with the 30-year, similar to the 10-year, we're trending up. Do I have a pattern here? No. Am I in the support level? No. Do I want a long? No. Do I want a short? No. So that's very easy. When you have a bunch of no's, you just move on to the next market. Don't always have to be in a trade. Let's go ahead and look at the ultra bonds. I know I'm talking a mile a minute here, you guys, but it's because we need to get ready to go for our 8 a.m. check here in 12 minutes. So here's the ultra bond. We'll cover this in more detail later. I do think the ultra is going to squeeze today up to about 127.30-ish. So that, that's up in here. 127.30 is up here. That's a long way on the ultra bond. So where do we have support? Yeah, down into 126.11 down here. So if we got a pullback down into support, obviously anything can happen, but my first choice would be to go long and be, I think that's a great spot to try and get long the ultra bonds. So we'll wait and see for that. Right now we don't do it. Let's look at gold. A lot of people love gold. I love the shiny metal. The paper futures you got to be careful trading these. So gold is obviously going to be very similar to bonds like we've been talking about. And I don't have time. I'll go into more details on gold after 8 a.m. when I have time to talk to you guys about some really important things regarding the war, what's going on in Yemen, how that could affect bonds, the dollar, gold. But we do have a temporarily strong support pattern here on gold for the weekly. So that's something we got to be aware of. And sometimes what's really interesting, you'll see that the chart patterns actually foreshadow geopolitical events. So you have a pretty strong weekly pattern right now on gold. Does that mean something's going to heat up in the Middle East this week? Maybe. We'll see. I've seen that, before, where the charts will lead the actual geopolitical event. It's pretty interesting. So for today with gold, I do think it's going to be similar to bonds. You've got a lot of support. But again, if I have a choice between longing bonds or longing gold, I'll long bonds because they're a thicker, much easier, nothing's easy, but just a better market to day trade than, crazy wild gold. Doesn't mean we won't take gold trades, we will. But if I have a choice between two correlated markets, I'm going to take the one that I think is, lower hanging fruit, because that's just me. I like to try and take the lowest hanging fruit. So gold, though, I do think, you got a lot of support down into 2022 today. So we'll just keep an eye on that. And again, we're going over all these because we want to see how they all fit together, right? So that's very important. All right, so for the 8 o'clock hourly check, do I want to short gold here? No. Do I want to long it? No. Let's look at silver. Say, gosh, this is so boring. We could have already had like 20 scalps by now, and we could have already been down like $200 in commissions. I know, that would have been awesome, but sorry, that's not my type of trading. I got to crack some jokes, you guys. Got to have some fun here, especially, if it wasn't for you guys in live streaming, I probably would have taken the day off today just because I'm feeling so tired from the being under the weather. But I'm glad I'm here. It's good, discipline. It's doing things when you don't want to do something, you don't feel like doing something, you got to do it anyways. That's discipline, right? So let's look at silver here. Yeah, silver just getting torched. That's interesting. Just kind of the outlier here. And just to make sure here, my data's not off. I don't think it is. But Steve, can you give me a check on silver futures? Are they at 22.35 right now? Or is my data off? They look like they're at 22.35, but it's just shocking that bonds are up, gold's up, but silver here is, it looks like my data is correct. Yeah, we're going to 1776 on the NASDAQ. It's going to be the U.S. Independence Day chart. Talk about that in a bit. All right, so silver continuing to look very, very weak here. So I think, if you look at the daily on silver, my goodness, we've got to, be excited about potentially shorting any type of a good pop on silver. Again, I'm going to wait for the right pattern. Let's look at, silver is always one of my favorite ones to short. I like holding the physical, actual silver. I'll get some pieces out of storage and put them here on the desk so we can clink them together. But the paper silver here, I like to short. It's a great market to short. All right, so looking at copper here. Oh, yeah, copper's got a beautiful, lot of resistance today coming out of copper weekly, daily. See, this is what you do. You go through these. So copper, I'm definitely a fan of shorting today. But again, we got to be careful because copper can be, stabilized with, the indices. If they keep grinding higher, copper will be correlated to those. But right now, the daily and the weekly look quite bearish. So if we got a good pop on copper, so you see, we're starting to put it together today, right? So indices, we know more or less we want to stay away from. The bonds, potentially looking to long. But I will say, with silver and copper, under a lot of pressure right now, that's kind of interesting. We'll see how that, translates over into bonds. But for now, bonds maybe looking to long if they pull back to a good daily support level. Looking at gold looks more of a mess. Silver, copper look like they could potentially be great markets to short if we get a rally back up, toward the highs, maybe 3.784 up here on copper. Silver, I'll get a level in just a moment. So silver and copper look like good markets to short potentially. Let's look at platinum. We had just a great trade on platinum on Friday. I didn't hold it long enough because I was just so tired and had a headache, but I got some back with my bonds trade at the end of the day. But platinum here, if you guys weren't here for us on Friday, this is the hourly, where do we short platinum? I mean, we shorted platinum right there. Right there. I took profit here, but You know, some people held it to down in here. My original target was 913 to 910. You can see we ended up just blowing straight through that. Anyways, the important thing is that the directional call was good, and generally speaking, doesn't always work this way, but for the most part, by using Owings market analysis first and foremost, and then also plugging it into the intermarket correlations, you know, we're generally not just on the wrong side of the market getting run over by a freaking freight train. That doesn't happen often, you know, if ever. I mean, it can happen on black swan outlier events to anybody. You can be in a great position. Intermarket correlations look great. You know, you're in a trade, and then the Houthis, you know, stick a missile in a U.S. destroyer. That's obviously a black swan. That's going to throw everything. Well, not quite a black swan because it's not totally unexpected, but you know what I mean, right? But for the most part, by using the correlations and using OMA, you know, we're able to pick pretty good spots like we did with platinum there. So what is platinum looking like for the 8 o'clock close, which is now in 5 minutes? Just looking at the daily, the week. I mean, platinum overall just continues to look like it's under a lot of pressure. Daily looks like it's rolling over after that bounce we had on Thursday and then sold off heading into Friday. So I'm not opposed to shorting shorting platinum, but you know, I'm gonna still pick my spots wisely, because today you can see bonds, you know, usually the best days are when all the markets are in agreement. And if all the markets aren't in agreement, then you at least have certain asset classes that are in agreement, or you can use the disagreement like we did on Friday with stocks going higher to use that as information to know that bonds had a high probability of stabilizing, right? So that's also very important. But for platinum here, I like the idea of shorting platinum today, definitely. Question is, do I want to short it at 8 a.m.? I don't know. This is, no, not here. I don't have time to go into why, but I don't want to short it here. Let's look at crude. You know, what I've always found too, you guys, is that on Monday mornings, and this is from, you know, many years of learning, you know, I used to come in on Monday mornings just all fired up from the weekend, right? Because I couldn't trade the whole weekend. So I was just super excited to come in on Monday morning. And, you know, I would just start firing away because I was just like, you know, a kid in a candy store. I was so happy for it to be Monday morning, right? What a great job, by the way, right? When you're happy, it's Monday morning. But I've since learned, because those are not good trades. When you're coming back from the weekend, you're excited and you just start throwing trades on. So now I like to settle in on Monday mornings and just kind of get the lay of the land. Let's see what the market does. We'll check the news and just kind of ease into it, because you know, it's too easy to kind of come in overexcited on Monday mornings. At least it was for me. So that's why I'm, you know, taking my time here for the 8 o'clock check. I don't usually put a trade on 8 o'clock first thing on Monday morning. I will sometimes if I see something amazing, but it's got to be very amazing, because I know myself, my propensity is to want to put that trade on, right? So I counteract that by just exercising even more patience than I usually do. All right, so here's crude oil. Crude, looking at, you know, for those who had a chance to watch the weekly forecast in the elite members area, I mean, I went over all this stuff, but here with crude, this is just a nightmare. It can't even rally with what's going on in the Middle East, and just chop. So today, I'm pretty much not doing a whole lot with crude right now. Although we did pick a good support level the other day, it just never got back there for a long. That's fine. You always want to let the market come to you, right? We're here to plan our trades, you know, well ahead of time, and then see how the market's developing during the day. You know, how are the indices with bonds, with metals, with, you know, how's everything looking? And you'll kind of gel into the right trades, and then you just wait for them to come to you. You don't have to force the issue. All right. So that's pretty much the 8 o'clock check. I don't see anything at all that I'm, you know, like, okay, I got to take this. So it won't be a trade for 8, but that's good, because we got a lot more to talk about and prepare for the day. Let's just quickly look at the Euro US dollar future. And you can see here on the, it's again, I think it's going to be choppy here. On the daily, you've got some mixed signals here. So, you know, the days where it's just, I don't like to use the term easy trading, because it's never easy. But, you know, when you've got a dollar that's getting stronger, right? And you've got bonds that are kind of selling off in an orderly fashion and rates are rising. What do you want to do on those days? Short metals, because it's just, you have everything in your favor to short metals on that day, right? So today we've got what looks like, you know, we've got stocks that are stronger, right? If we connect all the dots right now, and I think they're just going to kind of just be super volatile and choppy and maybe continue to squeeze a little bit more actually for now, but just very choppy. So stocks are squeezing. Bonds, I think for now look like they have support, but we need to wait and see. The metals are certainly a very mixed bag. You know, you'll usually see gold and silver pretty much moving in tandem, relatively speaking, but right now they're not. So that's, you know, warning flag. Copper and silver do look like they could be good shorts, but I'd like to see gold, you know, joining the party there. Platinum as well could be a good short. But then back to the dollar, right? We've got the dollar. Look at the daily dollar here, you guys. So this is on the daily chart for the dollar. This is what I'm talking about. See, so the daily on the dollar, we're trending down, get a little congestion entrance move here. And, you know, we got some resistance right here. We got some support right here. You know, when this chart goes up, this is the futures, right? When this chart goes up, the euro gets stronger. When it goes down, the dollar gets stronger. So ultimately, I think the dollar is going to get a lot stronger. But right now, it's just stuck in this tight range from Friday's close. So let's wait for some directional cues. And with that said, let's see what we've got for news coming out at 8:30. Got any questions in the chat? Go ahead and throw them in there. Oh, look at that. It's wonderful. We have another, let's see if anybody can guess. We have another central bank president speaking at 9 a.m. Christine Lagarde of the ECB, probably at Davos, hanging out with all of her buddies. She was just speaking all week last week. So that's another thing that's making last week and this week, when these central bankers are piping off, you got to be careful because, you know, they'll, you know, before they go on stage, they'll tell their buddies like, hey, you know, at about the 9:13 marker, I'm going to say something about gold. Wink, wink. You might want to buy, you know, I'm sure stuff like that happens. So anyways, my point is that it can get very volatile when the central bankers are speaking. So you got to be very careful. I thought we had them out of the way. What do you know? Here's Lagarde at 9 a.m. So let's be aware of that. Lagarde at 9 a.m. Let's see what else we got here. Nothing at 8:30. So just Lagarde at 9. See if we have any important treasury auctions today. No. So kind of a dead day news wise. It's only Lagarde at 9 a.m. We got to be aware of that. And we got the Bank of Japan interest rate decision tonight. So that'll also move the markets. See if they're going to continue with their attempt at yield curve control. All right. So Lagarde at 9, no other major news. So yeah, we're just right now, that's how we lay the foundation for the day. And now we're just going to, you know, kind of, you know, ease into this market, get the gelling going a little bit, start to see how the different asset classes want to wake up here on this Monday morning and just, you know, let the good ones come to us. So that's kind of where we're at. So Steve's got a question. He's asking, do I ever refer to the Dixie? No, I don't look at the Dixie. That's for those of you, that's the dollar index, the DXY. People call it the Dixie. I don't look at the Dixie because, you know, for me, the euro US dollar is enough because, you know, the euro makes, I don't know, 65% of the basket or something, and the pound makes another 10%. So the other currencies are pretty irrelevant to me in terms of gauging dollar strength, but that's just kind of how I do it right now. You could do the same thing by looking at the Dixie. You know, so I'll look at the Australian dollar, of course, as a proxy to the indices. I'll look at the Canadian dollar as a proxy to crude oil. You know, so you can look at the Swiss franc sometimes as a proxy for gold, especially during times of crisis. So this is kind of how I use the FX market. I will trade it if I'm, you know, if I don't see anything else, but something looks fantastic on one of the FX futures, you know, I'll take it. But it's just more often than not, you've got decent, you know, you've got good trades on the other futures markets that are more volatile and can just give you, you know, a much nicer move if you're right. You know, like platinum here, you know, this move that we caught on Friday. Here's platinum hourly chart. So when we caught this move, I mean, you just, you know, you'll see, you know, this is a big move on platinum from here. You know, even though the original target was 910, we ended up going, I mean, you see moves like this a lot more on, you know, the metals, bonds, indices. So, you know, in FX futures, you can get yourself in a great trade, and then you just got to sit there for, you know, hours and wait for it to move. That's not my kind of trading. When I can, I like to pick these ones where I get in, it moves, I make my money, and I get out. That's just my personal preference. My personality is such that I don't like to sit in the market for longer than I have to. That's why I will put on swing trades, but you know, not that often, and certainly not right now because of all the geopolitical risk that we've got going on. Because if you're holding a few contracts overnight and just something happens, you know, we've got the bank term funding program ending in March. That's probably going to cause some serious problems. We got this war going on. You know, we got the Houthis acting up, and I mean, just one little thing, and you're holding a couple of contracts overnight in the wrong asset class. You know, that's a big whack on the chin that I prefer not to take. Hope that makes sense. You have another question, Steven? Sorry, Steve. Still call you Steven. Let me know if you do. So let's go ahead now and quickly just cycle through again. And guys, we will cover the ags, right? We'll look at corn, wheat, soybeans, bean oil, bean meal, even the meats, but the meats rarely. But the ags we'll look at, but they're in a downtrend right now, and I think there's going to be a bottom pretty soon. I'm just kind of waiting. Again, I'm waiting for them to stabilize and turn back up, and I think there'll be a lot of good trading on the ags, especially heading into the planting season, which I think starts in March. I'm not an expert in agriculturals, but I know enough about it to know that if you get the direction right around March when they start planting, and you know, that's when you can catch some really nice runs in the ag. So that's why I'm not focusing on them right now, and they're not really tied into the intermarket correlation. You know, that's more the indices, bonds, metals, you know, crude, the dollar. So those are the main markets, and those offer plenty of good trades. All right, so let's look at ES now. Again, we want to just, this is, trading is like, it's like a language. When you learn to look at all these markets working together, we got to continually cycle through them so that you can, you know, always have your finger on the pulse and be ready to act. So that's why I'm just constantly cycling through these markets. So, you know, because the last cycle through, I was mainly focused on the hourly chart and the daily and just kind of, you know, laying the foundation for the day. Right now, I want to see what's going on with the 4-hourly chart. I mean, you can see here on ES at the far left here, the 4-hourly is still, you know, very strong. So why does this matter to me? Well, because as long as stocks continue to stubbornly squeeze higher, that makes my confidence in the long bond trade, if bonds pull back a bit, you know, that keeps my confidence level where it needs to be to pull the trigger on that bonds trade if I continue to see stocks squeezing higher. So that's why I'm just constantly assessing and reassessing where we're at with everything. All right, let's go ahead and look at NQ. It's going to be the same for the 4-hour chart, although you are putting in a little bit of resistance here. Still strong here. Let's just quickly look at the Dow and the Russell because we haven't looked at them yet. The Dow's got some more resistance up here for now. So we're going to be very careful. I'm not going to talk myself into anything, but if the Dow, I'm not even going to say it. I was going to say if it sets up a good short at some point. No, there are better trades today than the indices. Let's just stay away from them, but let's use them proxy for bonds. So here's the Russell. Yeah, because you bottom line is you don't want to be longing. I mean, do whatever you want. I'm not going to be longing the indices up here, and I'm certainly not going to try and short them here either. I'm going to focus. I'm going to use them. So right now, just based on the strength we're seeing, I'm looking at the Russell now. I'm looking at some of the higher time period charts. On the strength we're seeing on the Russell, the Dow, the NASDAQ, ES, it looks to me like, you know, long bonds is probably going to be the best, the lowest hanging fruit for today, because the metals kind of look like a mess. Like they're not really in agreement with each other, right? And I think that comes from the choppiness we're seeing on the dollar, right? So I think bonds are going to be a good one to focus on, which is exciting. I love bonds. They're just fantastic. So speaking of bonds, yeah, if you guys didn't have a chance to catch that, let's just quickly look at the Ultra bond. This is the one I took on Friday. So if you remember, I'll bring up the 5 minute in a second, but if you remember on Friday afternoon here, this is the 4-hour chart. So I was really curious when we were breaking these lows. I thought, okay, you know, after Michigan consumer sentiment, I thought, well, bonds look like they might be off to the races to the downside. Rates are increasing. You know, that should really have a downward pressure effect on stocks. But then, as you could see, this is what's so cool. You could see bonds, you know, not only do they take out that low right there and then suck back inside their, you know, low of the day range, right? But when you looked at the volume profile on the hourly chart, you just saw a beautiful tail here, thin tail, you know? So it was just classic volume profile reversal in line with OMA support coming in here. So that's why I really liked this support level in the hourly. So that's why when I was leaving the live stream on Friday, I said to you guys, like, hey, I got to go. I'm tired. I got a headache. But, you know, watch bonds, the Ultra bond into 125.15, 125.20 right in there. So I told you guys that because I wanted to give you a shot at, you know, taking advantage of that while I had to go. But then what I did is I just waited. You can see here, this is a 15-minute chart. As soon as I got off the stream with you guys, you know, I went upstairs and got some water or something. And then I came down here and I looked at, where was that? I'm just getting the time right. Here. This was literally the trade. So when, and I'm showing this to you guys, not to boast, I'm showing it to teach and explain to you how you can pick off some great entries sometimes using the 5 and the 15-minute chart. So because I had such a good sense that the 4-hourly and the hourly charts were going to put in a ton of support there, and I already had that level in mind. Keep that in mind, right? I had 125.20 down to 125.15. That was my sweet spot. There was just a truckload of higher time period support there, and all the other context that I already mentioned for why I thought bonds were going to. So everything was lining up for bonds, right? So when I saw, I think I said goodbye to you guys, you know, I can't remember when, but, you know, like back in here or something. And then I saw the 15-minute was trending up here, right? And when the 15-minute started pulling back here, you know, I just said, look, I don't expect this 15-minute to full on reverse to the downside, because we have all that 4-hourly and hourly support. Just imagine on this 15-minute chart, you just got tons and tons and tons of 4-hourly and hourly support, right? So when the 15-minute was pulling back right here, that's when I got the 5-minute chart, which I can just quickly zoom over here. I'll find it quickly here. So the 5-minute chart here we are. That was at 11 there. Yeah, right here. This is exactly the spot. So when I was watching this, so now you're putting this into context. This is how you use multiple time period analysis. Is one of the things I focus on when I teach, and then all this other stuff as well with OMA. But when you line up all these key levels with the multiple time period analysis, especially, now I knew that I had strong 15-minute support into the hourly support, into the 4-hourly support. So when the 5-minute chart on Ultra bonds was sitting up here, I was literally begging it to flush before this flush here on the 5-minute happened. I know how Ultra bonds work. I know that they like to do this. So I was just silently praying for this flush on the 5-minute chart. And then, you know, it started to flush. I thought, oh, this is beautiful. So that's when I went long those 7 contracts, you know, right in here. I got long literally at 20 and my stop was at 18, because I knew with that kind of a flush, you know, this near low had to hold. So a 2-tick stop on 7 contracts, right? It's like $438 in risk or something. And, you know, nice 1,900 and change, you know, on the return. Cause I literally got out here because I saw that high. I was targeting this high right here. Because on 7 contracts, 9 ticks is nice. So I say all that to just kind of reiterate, you want to wait for the trades to come to you, because if you do that, the amount of confidence it can give you, put that trade on and put it on with size, is going to be unlike any other experience you've ever had. If you're scalping and you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, it's going to be very difficult to have the confidence in the trades like this. So I just think it's a really important lesson. I wanted to share that with you guys. So those are the types of trades, when we can help it, that we're waiting for. And, I can only live stream a few hours a day because I just don't have the energy to keep talking all day. But that doesn't mean that great trade is not going to set up when we're done live streaming. So you can take the information that I'm giving you guys here, because I'm basically teeing up the afternoon for you on a silver platter, saying, hey, here's what the markets do. Because by the time we say goodbye, I've been following this market, for 3 or 4 hours through the New York morning. I'm in the zone, and I'm telling you, basically what we're seeing with the intermarket correlations, what I'm seeing with OMA. And, if you take that information and maybe use it to try and help inform your own decisions, you're going to, I would say probably you're going to have better results. You're going to, whatever edge you're working is probably going to work better when you plug it into the context of what I'm sharing with you. Now, do I get it right every day? Of course not. But generally speaking, when I don't really know what's going on, I'm typically at least aware enough of the fact that I don't know what's going on. So I just say, I don't know, and then just get the hell away from the computer. It's important. It's also very, very important. All right. Sorry, I'm rambling, but I think it's important rambling. This is the reality of trading, right? It's not like trade some prop firm account on 15 contracts and, risk 50,000 fake dollars so you can make 10,000, fake dollars, and sometimes maybe get a payout because you're getting, that's great. And I think people that can do that, hats off to them. I hope they take unlimited amounts of money out from the prop firms, but that's gambling. That's not like trading. I consider trading something that you're going to be doing, week after week after week after week after month after quarter after year. And it's just working. So I'm not trashing prop firms at all. I'm just telling you that, like, the reality of trading as I see it, it takes this type of preparation and focus. All right. Sorry, I got to get some water there. I'm doing good with the cold, I think. All right. Steven said, okay, thanks for confirming the silver there at 22.35. Yeah, I mean, bonds, Steve asked, if bonds correlate more than other groups. I mean, the debt market drives everything else, right? Everything is built on debt. Well, the US Treasury bond market is the largest debt market, right? The largest government debt market in the world. So yes, it is the single most important market in terms of, setting the correlations, but the correlations will change depending on, what the other asset classes are doing. But it's kind of the anchor. It's really important, right? So I hope that answers your question. All right, we're going to go into some volume profiles and some other things too, because we got a lot to prepare here for the week. We got Lagarde again at 9 a.m., which is still a ways off. Let's see, just going to check something here. 1 second. Okay. And Steven, Steve, will you let me know if my picture starts to get blurry? I need to turn more lights on, but I can't track that while I'm, doing all this. So just let me know if I start to look pixelated, because I got a green screen behind me. That's how I appear on the charts. But they require a certain amount of light. And right now the daylight is fading, so I might need to turn on these side lights. Yeah, exactly. Prop firms can deny your payout as well if you do that kind of trading. But I see a lot of people doing that kind of trading, getting away with it, for now. But if enough people do it and win, then the prop firms will shut them down. But then the prop firms will lose a lot of their business, right? Because a lot of their business comes from the gambling. All right. Yeah, so I think bonds are going to be primary market for today. And again, that could change depending on how things develop. But I'm kind of seeing a potential for a little bit of a push to the upside for bonds. I want to see what this. There's still a lot of weekly resistance, but if stocks keep squeezing, I think bonds are gonna just squeeze a little higher as well. Can you imagine, Steve, if like this is like, I wish I had this kind of information when I was starting. Like this is, people could learn so much by stopping by and paying attention to this type of analysis. And eventually they will. And I don't think it's, once you, I mean, you've been hearing it now for several days, so you see, I mean, I think you've learned a lot in the last few days. Just, you know, you learn when you hear it. So it's not, it sounds complicated in the beginning, but when you really start to get your mind wrapped around it, it's very useful and pretty straightforward. All right, so you can see the bonds are moving a little bit because it's 8:20 a.m. So that's when the old floor opened. Yeah, it's going to snowball like crazy. Just people don't know that it exists yet. So it's like you can have the best information, but you're in a desert and nobody can hear you. But as soon as a couple people in the distance hear, like, what's that? And then hey, come over. You know, that's how it'll be. It just takes time. And that's cool. That's, you know, what is expected. All right. So probably gonna have to get some more coffee in a second. My energy levels are like half of what they normally are. That's why I was feeling so tired toward the end of last week. This thing that I have now was coming on. I'm a little bit sore, you know, like when you get the flu. I don't have the flu, but you know, when you kind of feel like that little bit of soreness in your muscles, I think my body's fighting something, but it's fighting it well, which is good. All right, so looking at the bonds here, now that I laid the groundwork so thoroughly, I basically talked right there for about 45 minutes straight. It's amazing how fast time goes by when you just get locked into the analysis and you're really putting everything together. I mean, those 45 minutes just like could have been 5 minutes for me. Crazy. But now that I did lay that out, this is not going to be one of those streams where I talk constantly because I got to save my voice and my energy. Looking at some other charts here. Yeah. I think, you know, you've got a lot of support on bonds. Really anywhere down here. You've got Friday's high. Excuse me, coming in at here's ultra bonds from Friday. So, you know, 20, we've already gone back through there. So I would say 24 in here. Good support level. That's what I'll be keeping an eye on. Because I don't want to chase the bonds up here. I mean, not something I want to do. But when you look at the volume profile here for the ultra bonds, because we looked at the volume profile for the 10-year. But for the ultra bonds, I mean, you can see we're moving through this area of acceptance on the composite right there, right? So this low volume area, I think we're going to, you know, push up into this pretty good. That's why I think we could go up here, you know, 127.31. We'll see, but I think long bonds, not a horrible bet for today. How do I view volume on bonds when the US comes online? Like when we get moves on higher volume, the volume came. I mean, I just kind of look at what the, I mean, the volume's more more pronounced when the market opens, so you get better it's more reliable when the full liquidity is there. So that's important. Leave my water there. I got some lemon water. But this was on Friday. That tail we had. This is the hourly profile. You see that right there? There. Just a beautiful, beautiful tail here. When it sucked back up, that's when, with OMA and everything else, that's where I thought, oh, that support would be there. And it was. Very cool to see. That is just Sierra Chart's volume profile. So it's not really an indicator, it's just volume by price. It tells you how much volume is being traded at each price. That's the point of control. That's really helpful. But it's not, it's like people want, you know, this, you know, like a template, if this, then that. And that's just not, that's not trading in my view. I mean, you can have a system like an if-then system that'll work for a few months or 6 months or something, but as soon as the market changes, your if-then system goes right out the window, right? Whereas everything I'm teaching you and that I've learned over the years, it's very adaptable. You're able to use it through all market conditions, and then the volume profile is very similar. When you know how to use it, you can use it through all market conditions, but there's no sort of template for how to use it. You just gotta kind of learn through repetition. Yeah, that's the art that takes time. And I think if you get really good at it, it's because you've become an artist at it. Because that's what really will allow you to, it doesn't matter what the market throws at us with how to read the markets and how to read the charts. I mean, you're always in flow with the current market that's in front of you. So it doesn't matter if we're in a raging bull market or raging bear market or chopping whatever, like you're always in the flow of what's going on, which is nice. So yeah, so speaking of the shorts, Steve, you see how I'm here now in the bottom left. But if I was to take this video and plug it into my short software, it's, for some reason, it's capturing all the drawing. Like, so I'd have to, when I draw, I'd have to put the drawing like here and then draw like above myself. So then the short, you know, can capture that whole frame. And that's, I don't know. We'll see. That's kind of the challenge, but we'll work it out. I mean, at some point, you know, I'll just hire a video editor so that, you know, when you make the time stamps during these sessions, you know, I can easily send it to an editor and just say, here, you know, give us 5 good shorts, you know, these are the time blocks, you know, do it. And then they can make it look awesome and then put all the graphics and all that stuff. Just not there yet, but we will be there soon. Because, you know, unfortunately, that stuff does matter. It's not like it's very not in my nature to do that, which is why it's taking me so long to get around to doing it, because I hate promotional stuff, but I have to do it if the word's going to get out. So, and my motivation for it is that if the word is going to get out, I mean, there are always going to be people who want to learn how to trade. There's always going to be people spending money on trading courses. Well, you might as well get something of value for their fucking money instead of all this other crap I see out there. So that's why, like, if I got to do some promotional stuff, then I guess that's what we got to do. Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, just any you know, maybe at the end of the day, each day, you just shoot me over your quick little timestamps, and then I'll find a video editor that could do it. Ugh. That'd be great. Okay, so it's 8:30, but we don't really have anything until Lagarde. Today I'm just, because I am sick and exercising caution, I just want to, it's an easier day to make mistakes when you feel this tired, so I just gotta take it very slow today. So ES is grinding higher. NQ. Look at the Ultra Bond again. Yes, I think the Ultra Bond could be setting up for something. Remember what we saw here. So this was, excuse me. I'm gonna yawn a lot because when I'm on camera, I have a hard time yawning fully because you guys are right there. So I don't want to be like, oh. So then I never fully yawn. So then the yawn keeps coming back. That's fine. I'll take a break at some point for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But so you see here how this was about 6 a.m. here. Right here. This was 6 a.m. on Friday. You see how we were trending up, and then pulled back here into that support level. And you see how we dumped lower, right? That could be what we're setting up for now. Here. Oh, that was nice, Sean. So do you see here how it's kind of an identical situation where we could, I'm kind of hoping we, maybe next hour we get a flush like this, set up a extension down there, or a move like that. So that's kind of what I would be interested in. What lesson are you on, by the way, Steve? Blow my nose. Just finished Elite 6. Okay, cool. Let me know when you get to Elite 8, because if I recall, I used to have an issue where I uploaded one of the intros or something. Just pay extra attention as you get through 6, 7, 8, 9. Just make sure that whatever lesson it says you're on is what the intros and the lesson and the outros say. Okay, yeah, it'll help you to watch the course, many times. Because it's kind of like repetition. It'll just keep beating it into your head. And then that combined with, being here for the live stream and everything else is gonna help. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, we'll talk about more like advanced course things outside of the live stream, just because, I share a lot here already, but other stuff is just better left for the course people. Got to be some benefit for joining the course, and that's why I think too the community for the members will be very good, because after hours I can just continue to keep you guys updated, so that'll be a good resource. And I did get your messages, so I think if you go look for the feed inside the community and then you look for the circle, I know it can be a little confusing, but if you look around, you should be able to find because now you're registered there, so you should be able to find the feed in the circle. There's like the feed is just like the running feed, but there's a running feed for each circle. A circle is like a group, right? So I've got the daily market commentary circle, which is like, that's where I'm going to post all my updates outside of YouTube when I'm not streaming. If I'm looking at a specific trade setup that I really like, I'm going to post it in there for you guys, like with the bonds on Friday. And then there's a Q&A circle, and then there's another circle where everybody can share analysis and trading plans and all that kind of stuff. Okay, and your feed says there are no circles yet. That's weird. That's super weird. We'll figure it out. I'll send Kajabi an email and ask them. Because there should be, you should be able to access. We'll figure that out. It's all just launching now, so it'll come together. Let's take a look at gold. Okay, look. All the gold longs were excited. No, they're not excited. So this is going to be interesting because this is also sort of another thing. If bonds stay relatively firm and stocks stay firm, but you know, gold starts to drop down, then you know, either gold is going to probably catch back up or the other ones will catch down. This is just, it's interesting. Today we're getting a lot of different, you know, movement across the different asset classes. There doesn't seem to be a lot of coherency. Look at the silver market. I mean, look at silver. Silver's just getting torched. Great. So silver stays under pressure. We could be getting some, I mean, we're breaking through some key support levels right now for silver. This is nice. So silver could be a good one. Copper, still kind of choppy. There's platinum. I mean, there's a lot of resistance for platinum at 910. So keep an eye on this 4-hourly extension, this whole area up here. Especially because platinum's trying to rally now while gold and silver are tanking. So that's kind of what was happening on Friday. I think platinum was just in its own little world. That's what made that short just a lot better, right? That was cool. All right, I'm just going to take 5, Steve, and get some green tea. So I'll be right back, okay? Okay, be right back. 5 minutes. Maybe even about 10 minutes. So just between 5 and 10. All right. What did I miss? Is the picture still coming across okay in this light, Steve? Looks to me like it is, but looks pretty good. Kind of fun when I look at myself on the screen. When I was testing out, this particular look, just to see how everything was working, it was kind of funny. I was doing some skits, like I'm just a little man stuck inside this big screen. Oh, we gotta have fun. All right. I wonder if, yeah, it's funny. It's really funny. I did it in a British accent too. Made it even funnier. um, I wonder if I have to invite you to the circles, but we can check that maybe next hour. We have plenty of time. So let's get ready and make sure we don't miss anything for 9 o'clock. Because, hey, the sooner we make money today, the sooner I can get out of here and go to bed. I did get some coffee though. I was going to get green tea. It was like, the coffee's not even cutting it today. So get more coffee. I got some coffee. All right. So ES. Well, remember we got Lagarde at 9. Lagarde. So ES pulling back here a little. I think, I think ES is going to want to try and see. Here's the daily. I mean, I think it's going to want to try and at least revisit true average right there at 48.60. That wouldn't surprise me. Look at these. I think ES is going to have to take a little bit of a breather here. Yeah, you can see NQ is already leading the way down. It's because we got to make our way back toward the daily true average and the low connector there at 17,400. So I think indices will be under pressure here, just for the time being. We'll see what happens the rest of the day, but for now. And I think that's why gold, that'd be interesting. Then we'll see what happens with, let's look at the Dow. So the Dow is probably going to want to head back down to like 37,950. Don't really have something I want to trade here on the Dow. Look at the Russell. So checking out the Russell here. Don't see anything I like there on the Russell for now. Just look at the 10-year so we can see what's going on with the 10-year. Drink some coffee with some coconut milk. Try and wake up. Yeah, so big push on the 10-year here so far. Still waiting for a pullback. Let's look at the 30-year. Higher. There's the Ultra Bond. I think with stocks correcting, I think stocks are going to keep correcting because they got to get back to their true averages. And that's why the metals are weak right now. And I think even though bonds are going to maybe set up a decent buy, like Ultra Bonds here down into down into 126, below 126.20s for the ultra bond is where I'm looking. But I think it probably the next hour looks like it may want to roll over. Just gotta wait for that. Let's look at gold. So gold is kind of interesting here. Yeah, nothing great there in gold. Silver, I mean, silver is just looking fantastic here for shorting. I mean, right now it's the one that's moving. And you can see on the daily we've broken through the extension. I mean, there should be a lot of resistance now up into 22.35 on pullbacks. Silver, I think, is going to be good for shorting. But, you know, silver can be, this should be great if it could, you know, here's the hourly. So punch back up into this resistance level. Silver should be very weak the whole day. I think that's at some point we'll get a decent opportunity on silver. And we will use the 15-minute chart, you know, if I'm just kind of easing into it. I'm tired today. But this is certainly a day where we can keep a close eye on the 15-minute chart for shorting silver. Copper still, I mean, I think copper could see a pretty big down move today, but not going to get going until it really snaps below these lows over here. Don't want to mess with it in here. Platinum, this is kind of interesting. A lot of resistance here on platinum. Still not. You got to be careful because this, we're still kind of, you know, could just push a little higher than you think. You're kind of trying to get into a trend run here on the hourly. There's a lot of resistance here, but I don't like to go against that hourly energy unless there's a good exhaust. Look at crude. I haven't really paid that much attention to crude today. A lot of support on crude. I mean, massive amounts into about the $73 area. So that'll be an interesting level to keep an eye on for the day. That's the composite volume point of control as well, right around 73. That's interesting. We get nat gas. There's nat gas continuing the slide. Wow, gap down. Nat gas at the open. Jeez. I mean, it's like, is nat gas going to go negative like crude did, you know, a few years back? It's like, look at this. Nat gas weekly is just getting destroyed. Dollar. Still quite choppy here. Hopefully Lagarde will kind of spice things up with some comments at 9 a.m. and get some volatility going. Would be nice. So the euro, yeah, I mean, not a lot of clues from the dollar today. I think silver, yeah, look at silver just trucking down. I mean, if silver is going to keep, I'll tell you this, if silver continues to drop like this, I mean, this is pretty impressive. So definitely got to keep an eye on the 15-minute for silver shorts. Although my preferred area is up here into like 22.30 or higher. We'll just, the 15-minute will clue us in. But gold, if gold, see how weak gold closes here at 9 a.m. in 7 minutes. But if we close weak, and if the volume, yeah, the volume profile right now, we'll see how it shifts. But right now it looks like a pretty weak volume profile for gold. So if gold's looking weak on close and silver looks weak, you know, platinum, this could make this short in platinum a little bit more interesting. A lot of resistance here. Platinum will be interesting. Certainly could be setting up a short. I'm gonna keep an eye on platinum here, because we got, the question is with silver and gold, I mean, are they leading the way lower for platinum to follow? Sure looks like it right now. But I want to see where this gold hourly closes. Certainly got a nice volume profile tail on this bar, so if that's any indication, that could mean that 2028 is going to continue to be strong resistance. But again, we're going to have to see where that closes. But looking at silver, I mean, got to think platinum is going to follow that down, I would guess. It's holding off for now. And if you wonder why I'm holding off, it's because I prefer to short metals when bonds are weak and the dollar is strong. And right now the dollar is choppy and bonds are strong. So that's where my my cautiousness is coming from. It doesn't mean platinum won't drop. It just means I just ask myself on every trade, I ask myself, is this a trade where, you know, if I lose $500 on this trade, am I going to look back and say, you know what, that was a good 500 to lose? I want to try each loss I take when they come. I want to look back and look at it and go, yeah, that was a really good trade. No regrets. That's what I try to do. So that's why I just wait for the ones where everything's lining. And I should have bought that Ultra Bonds for a second time after I took my profit on Friday. I was just so tired and had such a bad headache. I just shut the computer down because I knew when you're in that state, because I felt what I have now, this cold flu thing, I felt that coming on Friday. And when I made that nice trade on 7 contracts, I kind of felt it was going to come back to that support level and just be the gift that keeps on giving. And I so wanted to take it. But I thought, being that tired, the risk is I make a mistake or something. So I just shut it down. But it did pull right back to that support level and gave another beautiful, it was just, those are the trades you want where you can just sit there and milk them. I mean, imagine you get 2 of those a month, you know, like, and you go 7 contracts, 8 contracts, 10 contracts. It's like, there's nothing, this whole idea that, you know, you should risk, you know, X amount on each trade. And I don't buy into that at all. Like, why would I, like, I know what a really good trade looks like first and foremost. So I try to select only those. But then on, you know, on the majority of my trades, I'll risk, you know, X amount. But then if I see something I not only do I like, but I love, like I did bonds, obviously I'm going to take more risk on that trade. How can you not, right? And then you got to live with whatever the results are. But that's why this whole thing about R fact, again, it all comes down to everybody wants this if then, you know, if this, do that. If that, do this, you know, risk this, make this. It's like, that's not the way trading works unless you're, you know, Citadel and you're running order flow, you know, fine. Or Virtu Financial, you know, but these guys are arbitrage players. If you're a true speculator, over time, you're going to know when your really good setups are there And obviously you have to take more risk on those, because imagine all the days here being careful and not taking a trade. Well, it's because you're saving your risk for other situations. So the opposite is true. If you're being careful on certain days, then on other days when you see something you really like, of course taking more risk is prudent. You don't want to take too much risk, but I hope that resonates, Steve, and all the lucky people that get to see this on a recording in the future. I hope it makes sense for you what I'm saying about risk. Here's platinum. We're coming up on 9 a.m. The guard is going to speak. I can't short platinum here just because of what I already mentioned. I'm tempted, but dollar's not clear. Bonds are still holding up. I can't short platinum like that. Let's go ahead. I think there's more of a risk that gold and silver will push higher. Yeah, exactly. It's like the math. Think about trading as a business. The max risk thing doesn't make any sense. It's like if you're running a retail business, and let's say you only really spend 10 grand a month on inventory because you know how much people buy and all that, right? But then suddenly you get a great deal, like just a huge deal on some super popular item that everybody's going to buy, but you need to buy $50,000 worth of it. Well, that's the time to take the risk in your business and buy that inventory, because that risk can give you a lot more return. The same in trading. So here's ES. You got a lot of support at 448.84, but I'm not going to buy it at all. I'm just kind of hoping that support breaks and we see him move down to the true average at 48.60. I think that's more likely, but this is a key level here on ES. It could at least start to move to the downside if that starts to break. So anybody that's scalping up here, I think they have to be very careful. Anything's possible, but the odds are, here's the daily, the odds are we're going to want to go back and at least revisit down in here somewhere before we go higher. That doesn't have to happen, but those are the percentages. Sounded like a New Yorker there. Those are the percentages. I don't know where that came from. All right. Sound like the Godfather. Look at the NASDAQ. Yeah. So I do think indices are gonna dump here a little bit. And the question is, are bonds? Yeah, I think so. There's the, oh yeah. 10-year. I mean, I'm not going to short the 10-year here at all, but I think you've got a nice situation here on the hourly with the pattern. And I think this could be where we get the correction here on the 10-year, get the correction on the stocks. And then this could be setting up the trade I'm looking for today, which is probably long bonds, depending on how low do stocks go on this correction and how do they stabilize. That will determine, how much I like the bonds or not. It really is a beautiful thing when you start connecting all the pieces. Look at the 30-year. Yeah, it's not, I mean, you got a lot of temporary resistance here for sure on the 30-year. I don't know, do I want to short it? I do think we could see. I'm not going to short this. I think the energy is, because I'm always, trying to put together the pieces to see where do I think the day's, going to close, right? And we'll see what happens. But today it looks to me, we got Lagarde speaking now, right? So let's see what she says. But it looks to me, based on everything I'm seeing, OMA, volume profile, higher time period charts, I think ultimately bonds, like if you look at the 30-year here, you see the most, the volume profile here on the daily, the composite. I think ultimately this is going to be the magnet for the day. So if we were to pull back, you know, if we were to push higher, let's say we pushed up into, you know, the middle of this low volume area, then we'd be pretty overextended. I'd be willing to short up in there. We also have some nice weekly resistance up there around 122 on the 30-year, depending on how high we went. Really, I think the safest bet for today on bonds is if we pull back down into this low volume, you know, right down in here on the 30-year, that would be, you know, in there 128, matching up with some nice OMA in here. So I think that's, if we pull back on bonds and we continue to see stability in the dollar and stocks are staying more or less kind of where they are up there, then I think the bonds on the long side are a good bet for today. So that's, I say all that because that's why, even though I think we could see a correction right now in the 30-year, and I'm kind of tempted to short right here, the hourly, because I do think we could go back to like 120.10, you know, down in here. I'm quite tempted to short, but I think the better play is from the long side. Let's look at the ultra. I think bonds are going to drop here. If I was in a more aggressive mood, I would probably short them. We got Lagarde speaking to, and I just think I think the weekly energy this week could be up for bonds. That's why I'm just a little careful right now on the short side, because you have some temporary monthly and weekly support here. So let us see. And again, stocks are continuing to tip us off that bonds have kind of stabilized for now. So that's why I've shifted. Just like on Friday afternoon when I made that shift to long bonds, that's kind of carrying over into today. Good news is that coffee hopefully is kicking in a little bit. I can pull through here today. Let's go back and look at gold. Yeah. So gold continuing to head lower. Silver, you know, we're already in such a nice downtrend on silver. I think this would be, if we can get some sort of a pop on the 15-minute silver, you know, something. Let's take a look. What we want to see ideally. There was an example back there, but I can't find it. Fine. Silver looks very weak. Let's look at platinum. Mixed bag. I think there's some resistance here on platinum, but I told you why I'm not shorting it, so I don't need to repeat that. And I'm just going to repeat every single day so it becomes the mantra of the channel. It's not about the money you make, it's about the money you don't lose. Trading is not about looking back in time and looking at all the wins we would have had. It's about all the landmines that people step on in real time, right? That's what blows you up. Mental capital and account capital. The key is to learn how to spot those trades that are, because you can take 100 so-so trades a day, but there's no edge in those trades, at least not over time, right? So you want to try and, first you need an edge, then you need to wait for that edge to present itself and take only those trades and be content to wait. And that means, you know, passing up on a lot of decent looking trades, because the good ones, they come. And I say all this to myself, you guys, because this is why I'm not shorting 30-year right here, because all of the things being equal, it's not a bad short on the 30-year. But for me, I have my reasons to wait for a potential long based on what all the intermarket correlations are doing right now. Hmm. Pretty lackluster so far, right? I mean, look, ES is in, without counting the, okay, even counting the extremes. I mean, we haven't opened yet, so we'll get some volatility at the open, which will be nice, but ES is basically in a 6-point range the last hour and a half. That's pretty tight. NASDAQ looks to want to be leading us lower, I think. Yeah, I think the NASDAQ's gonna head back down to 17 or ish down in here. Dow. Yeah, so there's the Dow pushing higher. Go ahead. Look back at 30-year. Yeah, I think it's going to push down. Gold. Might have to keep an eye on the 15-minute chart here for silver. I mean, this thing is just getting torched. Platinum's just kind of staying where it's at. Euro against the dollar is not doing much. I mean, Lagarde could say something to whack it out of that congestion, but we're going to have to wait and see. We're just waiting. Kind of a slow day. But silver could give us something. We'll see. Ultra bonds. Yeah, so I think until 10 a.m., just going to stay put. But right now, silver could be a good short if we get a, nice little pullback. Keep an eye on silver just to see if we can get something in between now and the 10 a.m. hourly close. The silver looks like we're on our way to 2190. So any pop now up into 2216 would be nice on silver. Keep an eye on that. And there's one other I was going to comment. Oh, the stock market. When they open, the question is, I like to try and pick these spots at the open sometimes. I think we have a clear read on energy. I do think you're going to see, based on these elevated levels, potentially some selling at the open. Which means if we see a good spot, we want to set an order to watch to maybe get short. I'm not against that at the open. But let's just wait. We still have about 15-20 minutes until the open. So before that happens, we'll just keep an eye on silver here. Silver's just 2216 is where you've just got a lot of resistance now. So that's the level I'm going to be watching here very carefully. 2216, 2217. Looking at everything. Yeah. Strange. Silver's just kind of in its own little world right now, just crashing. But I don't see it, stabilizing today. So let's look for the short side. I can't wait until this Winter is over here. Man, I used to win all. I can imagine it's quite different in your weather there in Utah, Steve, because here we just wet and misty and cloudy. You just don't see the sun like really ever for about a good 3 months. And then the winter itself, I mean, basically from like November 1st to March 1st, those 5 months just absolutely basically just like I don't know how people do it here. The Vikings were tough. I would have, if I was a Viking, I would have gotten my Viking ship and head south and hang out with the Latinos in the Mediterranean, relax in the sunshine. I wouldn't have hung out up here. All right, so we're gonna get a close here on this 15-minute chart on silver. But I don't, you know, my area is up here, 2216 ish. And you know, so you gotta pick your spots in silver. Even though right now my spot's 2216, it's not like I'm gonna rush in and trade silver at 2216. I wanna, you know, just keep an eye on it and just a good one when it comes. It's like, oh, there it is. You know, you want to take it. Silver, we could pop back up to 2230. Oh no. Silver's a wild one. So we'll give it a chance. I want to see what it does here. Take a look at the 30-year for now. Kind of hanging out. ES still stuck at 48.84. Gold. Could have some support here on gold. We'll see. Kind of a lackluster day so far. You know, this is oftentimes you just don't know when the trade's going to come. And everything just gets clear. Stuff starts moving. Correlations kind of snap into place. Some OMA levels look clear. It's like, boom, just they come out of nowhere. You just got to wait for them. There's copper. Look at the euro against the dollar. Just, wow. Doing nothing. We got the stock market opening in 14 minutes. Let's look at, let's go and see what anybody says about Lagarde. Zero Hedge has to say. Checking the news. Yeah. Light day so far. My mother-in-law is so sweet. she likes my Facebook video. I'm not a big social media guy either. I just starting it now for all this, but I started a Facebook page and she's very sweet. She liked my 90-second stock market forecast. so far not a whole lot shaking today, but market's going to open here and we'll see what we got. Just the euro. This is like watching paint dry. Let's go back and look at silver. In here, 30-year is dropping a little. Wouldn't have been a terrible short there. So the market's going to open here 10 minutes. And I do think we're going to have some downward pressure. Okay, cool, Steve. I think we're going to have some downward pressure on stocks at the open. So I'll try and look and see if there's a spot I can pick off a short potentially. But so far, slow day, no news flows, exercise caution. Had a good finish, good strong finish to the week on Friday. No need to force the issue. So looking at the NASDAQ heading into the stock market open here in about 20 minutes. We'll keep an eye on this, see if we can find. I think what we're seeing is, let's see. Just going to try and find an example for you guys on the NASDAQ. This is the 4-hour chart. You see when the 4-hour's been trending up quite maturely like this, it'll punch up and then reverse. I think that's kind of where we're at right now. You see, look at this trend run on the 4-hour here. So I think it's time now for a bit of a pullback. And if that's the case, you know, we want to ask, well, if we're heading into the open and we think it's going to be, you know, bearish heading into the open, which I do, you know, is there a place I'd be willing to get short? Well, I'm going to look right now and see. Because we are also just, yeah, we're way outside the monthly value area to the upside. So this is just where, generally speaking, the market's got to take a little bit of a breather. Probably going to continue to keep squeezing, I think, overall for a few days, maybe a week. But doesn't mean it's not going to pull back. So with this volatility, I mean, here on the 4-hour, because we haven't seen this lately, but sometimes at the open, you know, you can really see the NASDAQ, you know, get really wild. So on the 4-hourly, I mean, you've got that extension up there at 590, which is just above a high there. So probably a lot of resistance up into the high. Wouldn't be a bad spot to maybe look for a short. Be careful. I'm not setting an order here. I'm just kind of looking and seeing if the market wants to gift us an opportunity on an otherwise slow day. And we'll see too, because everything will change heading into the open here in the next 8 minutes. Let's see what this does. Check in with the 30-year in the meantime. Yeah, kind of pushing lower, so. Well, I could have been short the 30-year there, but look at gold. And silver. All right. Just kind of waiting. So the 30-year dropping nicely. Well, I guess I could have thrown one contract on, but I just didn't feel like it. All right, let's look at Ultra Bond. Yeah, moving nicely here. But I want to short the bonds at the open now that we have a bit more confirmation. I still think waiting for the long on the bonds is more prudent, and I want to see how stocks react here at the open. I think we'll get a lot of information on how stocks open. Let's just stay patient. Sorry, I don't have a lot of energy today, guys. I'm really just kind of under the weather for the first time in a long time. Just trying to stay awake after this. Hopefully we can get a good trade in the next hour or two and make some money, and I can close my eyes and rest up for tomorrow. First things first. Here's the Ultra Bond. Sorry, this is the 30-year. Checking the scoreboard. Yeah, let's keep an eye on the NASDAQ here. We got 4 minutes until the open. I don't have any orders set, but let's just see what the opening positioning is like. That'll give us some information. We'll see what the charts do. It'll kind of shake up all the different asset classes, and we'll get a good sense of what we expect for the rest of the day. Gonna blow my nose here real quick. Soon I guess we'll put on some these other lights. Chocolate while we wait. Funny, every time I look at myself in the screen, you know, because I got the green screen going, so funny. Like, I just look at this little man just trapped inside the screen. The charts look massive behind me. It's so funny. I kind of like it. I think it's a good look. Makes me laugh, anyways. That's worth its weight in gold. Man, I'm used to eating 90% chocolate, so I didn't have any 90. I only had a thing of 85. 85 is like super. It's like too sweet when I've been eating so much 90%. Strange. You know, normally 85% is pretty dark. For anybody thinking of moving to Sweden for the weather, I would definitely advise against it. I love Sweden, but the winters are long and challenging. For me, anyways. All right, we got a minute and 20 seconds-ish to lift off. Let's see what she does. Get the NASDAQ up on the DOM. No orders, no trades, flat. The only one I've even seen today that was remotely tempting for me was the short on the 30-year Treasury bond, you know, just not too long ago, but I didn't take it because, again, I'm just kind of waiting. I want to see what this market does here. Monday morning, we'll get some information when the stock, all the opening order flows start to come in here in about 25 minutes. We got no news today. We got Lagarde speaking. So, you know, just a good day to be patient, let the market come to us. We've got 25 seconds until the open. And I do think resistance is looking pretty strong for now. I mean, looks to me like the NASDAQ is going to want to, you know, get back down to 17.4-ish before it resumes. So let's see, we're opening now. A lot of resistance, 17,560. I'm not going to trade it, but I'm curious to watch that level. That's the level where, and I can see a confluence of Owings market analysis levels there into 17,560. It doesn't mean they're going to hold them. I want to see what the 15 does up there, just for curiosity. Right now we're trading 17,545-ish, 42. Trading just pushed up 46. Hey, no problem, crude oil. I'm glad you made some money. Makes me happy. Thank you for the comment. Kind of a slow day so far on the stream and a little under the weather, but hanging in there, just waiting for the market to come to us. And, you know, it's all about consistent results. And, yeah. There's a little bit of a short. I don't know if you saw that crude oil, but on the 30-year Treasury bonds, I was kind of moderately interested in a short, but so far no trades, flat, just kind of waiting to see how things work themselves out. Hey, crude oil, do you give a like to the stream? We're going to get up there with 2 whole likes. How's my, do I need to turn on more lights? Am I pixelated or am I doing all right? I'm kind of messing around with the new green screen setup. I like it. But the sun's going down now. So might have to fire up some lights here. All right, let's see if there's some resistance up here on the NASDAQ. Basically what I'm seeing across the board right now today is all the assets look pretty mixed. Oh, good. Thanks. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think it kind of cleans up the look a little bit, you know, when you're just on the screen with the charts there instead of like being in a box and nobody needs to see my wood bookcase background. I mean, it's fine, but I think it's just a lot more clean with the charts. It's like a weatherman, you know? Yep, OMA works. Once word gets out, it may not be the sexiest place, you know, the sexiest stream on the web where you tune in and get to listen to a bunch of bullshit, and that's not this stream. But you want to come and consistently make money, then this will be the place to hang out, and that word will get out. Exactly. That is the forecast. Raining money. For sure. I'm kind of hoping the NASDAQ can, the higher it pushes, I think at some point here it's going to, you know, trap some longs and flush. I mean, overall we're still squeezing, but I think we need to get back a little bit. We'll see. I'm not really interested in trading it up here unless I see a nice exhaust to try and short potentially. But I'm being careful with the indices today. They're just not clear right now. Let's look at, keep an eye on the NASDAQ here. I'll check this in a second. Just wanted to look at the 30-year. Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening to the 30-year. But see, I was kind of moderately interested in shorting, but just, you know, I get such good reads now on OMA with looking at the overall, you know, correlations between all the different markets. And you can just, it's so, the ones that are good are so clear because you have really good cross market correlation. And I wasn't really feeling it for this 30-year bond short, so I didn't take it. And now it's just kind of doing nothing, you know. You'd be up a little bit, but because I want to see how stocks open and settle here after the opening range. Well, this will be interesting. We got a lot. This will be fun to watch. So check this out on OMA. That's a key level right there. That extension, which is coming in at 591, 17,591. So I'd be curious to see how price reacts to that level, because this could be one of these, you know, opening exhausts on the 15-minute, you know, suck some longs in, and then it just dumps. But we'll see. If I trade it, I will let you know. Right now, I'm just watching. You can see some of that selling coming in. What's crude doing today? I'll take a look at crude for crude oil. At the beginning of the day, yeah, if you go back and look at the stream, well, you probably caught that, right? I said 73 is a ton of support there on crude. And I didn't take a trade there, but I saw 73 was just loaded in support. Called that out on the stream. Were you listening to that earlier and you were able to act on that? That's great. That's the point of the stream. This is crude in front of us now. There's the 4-hour crude. That was that 73 level here. We had a lot of support there. That's cool. Crude will keep pushing higher for now. Let's look at NASDAQ again. Yeah, look at that. So that's kind of what I thought would happen. You see how the NASDAQ is sucked in some longs up there. And now it's, you know, kind of getting sold into. That's what I thought would happen. Look, it went right for those highs. Right there. Just took out the highs. Got some longs in. Now it's probably going to dump. But just wait for the good ones. My main pick for today, we'll see how it plays out. I don't know if you caught it earlier, crude oil. But the main pick is just kind of, if I do expect stocks to correct. I think the NASDAQ's going to go down to, you know, go down about 100 points from here. Just get back a little bit of the recent gains, then probably stabilize. And then I want to see how bonds are looking at that moment. And then if you ask, well, why don't I short right here? Well, the reason is because the daily is just, here's the daily. I mean, this is a squeeze right now, and I don't, you know, I'm not going to just go, even though I do think we need to get back a little. I'm not going to put my money at risk there. Instead, I'm using the NASDAQ and the indices as a proxy to see if I can get a good setup on bonds. Silver's weak today, so there's some good shorting on silver, kind of like a lower hanging fruit. The silver's up at 22.16 now. Take a look at silver. Oh yeah, silver was silver could just get a little bit of a punch back up to, and even this area is not a bad place for silver. Silver is weak, but that hourly, you got to be careful because that hourly could cause a reaction back up here. The better short on silver would be if we get back up here around 22.28. Kind of what I'm waiting for. 22.16 was the first level, but now that we're there, I'm kind of liking higher, better for silver. Let's look at yeah, the bonds are just kind of choppy. Is it, you know, guidance on this channel is it's good guidance. Just doing our best to stay out of, don't step on the landmines and just wait for the good setups. Look at the NASDAQ here again. So NASDAQ is dumping nicely. Wow, all the way back down to 1743. So yeah. So let's see what happens here. What's ES at? Oh, oh, this is quite interesting. ES is at 48.94 while NASDAQ is pushing down 17,530. Wow, so ES is showing strength. Well, we've got the 10 o'clock close coming up. See, stocks look pretty strong here still. I mean, if we don't, ES looks very strong. So if that's the case, if ES is looking strong, you know, that was why I didn't want to go short the 30-year. So definitely reading it nicely. But now what would be nice is if we could get just a little bit of a pullback on bonds, because I think long bonds would be a better play, especially if stocks continue to squeeze higher without even a small pullback. Because the only way stocks are going to do that is if, you know, rates keep backing off. And the only way rates keep backing off is if bonds keep grinding higher. And that's what's, you know, fueling this squeeze on stocks right now. And the dollar is not doing much. So I think you've got a pretty ripe environment for crude oil today. Crude, I mean, if stocks continue to push higher, bonds, if they push higher, if the dollar doesn't really show a lot of strength, then I think crude will probably have, you know, continued support underneath it. I think the ultra bonds, this is the one I'm kind of the most interested in potentially longing at some point. Because I think, especially if stocks keep squeezing, I think the ultras may want to squeeze up to the high 127s, which is up in here. So this hourly trend run here, I think could be setting up a decent pullback to go long the bonds. I mean, I'd like them to go a little bit lower, but you know, we may not get that. Let's just see. So let's look at but I'm glad you were able to take advantage of that crude oil support call into 73 crude oil. For all of you listening, the name of the person in the chat is actually crude oil. So I'm not stuttering when I say I'm glad you took advantage of crude oil. Crude oil. that's the handle. So ES trying to back off a little bit. Okay. Yeah. So this would be great. I think if wow, the Nasdaq's at 495. So yeah, the Nasdaq, huge volatility here at the open, and now we're starting to tank on the Nasdaq. So that was went kind of right up there to that high, and then just sucked in some longs and tanked. So hopefully we'll see bonds pull back now. Silver is at 22.13. Yeah, silver could be setting up a decent short here. I might have to take this. Let's see. I'm just going to hold off on silver for now. The bonds. Okay, good. The ultra bonds are dropping now. Stocks dropping nicely. Nasdaq at 17,500, so big reversal there. Just kind of waiting to see if we can get a bit of a pullback on bonds. Nasdaq super wild. If it heads back up now. So I think the call to stay away from stocks is a good one. And now if stocks stabilize and bonds stabilize, I'm interested to see the support level here on bonds heading into the 10 o'clock hour. Watching specifically the ultra bond. Just waiting for that hourly close there on the ultra bond. I think it's going to push higher, especially if stocks stabilize. I mean, it looks like ES is trying to stabilize now above 48.90. Nasdaq held 17,500 nicely. Silver's pushing back up through 22.16. Gold retook 20.20. So I think the ultra bonds want to head higher today. I'm just waiting for the 10 o'clock hourly close here on ultra bonds. And then we'll see what stocks are doing. We'll see what everything else is doing. I'd like a bit more of a pullback because we're right. You can see here on the daily chart. I mean, we are right at the fat part of the volume profile composite. You guys see this? So this is the most heavily accepted price right here. There's going to be a lot of chop around there, which is why it'd be nice if we could just get, you know, a little bit of a move down here to like 24 or something. That's just kind of what I'm waiting for on the ultra bond. So let's check crude. Only 940s. Yeah, crude. I think crude's going to have a good day to the upside. So if I get a hourly pullback on crude, be interested in longing. Again, if it comes back to 70, anywhere down into 73, it looks like you're probably going to have pretty strong support down there all day. That should help you, crude oil. Dollar just kind of doing nothing. So yeah, I think sort of what we saw on Friday heading into this week, we're going to see a continuation of that pattern here today, which is where bonds are going to continue to push higher, yields are going to drop, stocks are going to just probably keep grinding higher, even if they pull back a little bit. Metals, I think, are going to be stuck between the two flows, even though silver still looks quite bearish. So, but silver, making a little, this is why you got to be careful, you guys. Everyone always looks back at the chart and goes, oh, I would have done this and would have done that. Like, I mean, silver right now, if you say, oh, it's breaking out to the downside, when it's at like 2208, 2210, and you just go short, if you don't pick your spots wisely, now silver's back to 2221. You could be down 11 cents. That's $600 a contract, $550 a contract, whatever it is. That's not fun. That's so important to pick the spots correctly. I think the bonds. I really hope the ultra bond can just flush a little bit lower. Like if the ultra bond, this is what I'm stalking, I've got like my rifle. I'm just waiting. If the ultra bonds could just kind of flush down to like 126.21, I mean, that would just be fantastic. Because if the ultras do that while stocks are stabilizing, I think we could see a push. But even if ultras close here, you've got a lot of support here. Just gotta see what stocks are doing. Yeah, I mean, ES is holding up nicely. Loading ES now. Yeah, just squeezing. Squeeze city here. NASDAQ a lot more choppy. I'm not even really looking at the Russell and the... Put on my other lights here for a second. Lights on, 1 second. How's that? Yes, that's good. So here's the Dow. Still think, looking at, I gotta just kind of get my thoughts together here. I will admit my brain is working a bit more slowly today due to this, a cold or whatever it is I have. But looking at, ES here, this looks like if this 48.96 level holds, this could be an hourly. This is how we connect all these markets, right? This could be an hourly extension for a reversal back down like that. And if that happens, bonds will also probably come back down to that overall daily support level that we're looking for. So this is kind of a key level to watch here on ES. Yeah, and we're basically right at the yearly trend line here, more or less. Yeah, this is right at the yearly high connectors at, well, 48.85, but they're not exact, so it's a zone. So you've got some, you could see a pretty good, we'll see. I want to watch, this is the daily, the weekly, the monthly. So you're right at that monthly resistance trend line as well. So what I want to see is hourly here. I want to see how it reacts to this potential resistance level here. See what the NASDAQ is doing. The NASDAQ, not really buying. I mean, NASDAQ's not totally buying the ES yet. Let's see. Good day to just be flat so far, kind of waiting. And they click, they click. Oh yeah, look at gold and silver now. See, so silver really pushing back up to 22.35. See what it looks like up in there. The reason I'm exercising more caution today is because you're not getting a complete picture with the indices, bonds, the dollar, and metals. So then where are we getting a bit of a complete picture? Well, the metals are mixed because the dollar is not catching a bid right now. So that's, that's why you're going to see some choppiness like this. That means be careful with gold, silver, platinum, copper. With that dollar being, very choppy against the euro, not catching a bid. Crude's taken off. I think the indices look pretty strong for now. We're going to see where this hourly closes. I still think the trade is waiting for long bonds, but I just got to find a good entry. That's my pick anyways. I mean, look at, because ES is just off to the races here. I mean, look at this. We'll see where this thing closes, but that is squeeze city. And if it's going to squeeze city, I'm definitely not going to buy the squeeze up here, but I would be more interested in maybe taking a shot on the ultra bond here. Even though my preferred area was back in here, I think the ultras could, with what I'm seeing on the indices, the ultras could just squeeze from this level here. So just keep an eye on this. Yeah, you got a little bit of a tail there on the hourly. So I think the ultras are probably, we got 5 minutes to go, but looks like bonds are going to be well supported. Looks like stocks are going to continue to squeeze. Looks like metals are going to be confused. I think crude is looking good on pullbacks. Just wait for pullbacks on crude. Dollar not doing much. So we're starting to get a clear picture for the day. This is nice. And I'm just going to try and get one decent call on stream. We can make some money and go to bed. But also trying to leave you guys with the information, because this information is very valuable for you if you use it to trade the rest of the day. I'm not right all the time, but in terms of the overall forecast, I don't know, 75, 80% of the time, once I really get a sense of what the markets are doing and how all the correlations are unfolding and how OMA and what OMA is showing me. So right now, I think ultra bonds are definitely going to squeeze. If ES is closing above, just loading ES right now. So ES, I mean, that's some strength right there on ES. Look at the 10-year treasury. Yeah, I think bonds just want to go higher. See, that's why I was, even though that short there on the 30-year, I was like, I didn't like it, and that was why. But see, the 30-year, we've already tagged the extension. The ultra bond we haven't. I think the ultra bond is the one to watch. Let's look at gold. The gold's just wild here. Don't want to get involved with that, but I mean, gold will probably catch a bid if stocks are going to keep squeezing, and then that means that's going to drag bonds up, rates down. Metals will be supported from that. So keep that in mind. All of you who are short metals, be careful. Metals are a mess. Crude sitting at 74. So just waiting for the pullback to 73 again. I think, just longing 73 and then, taking profit 50, 60 cents higher and then wait for it to pull back to 73. That's a good strategy for today, I think. Let's see. Oh, so ES. Okay, so here, this changes it. ES is back to 48.94. So there is some selling coming in on ES. That's interesting. Because you do have a potential, you know, I'm not going to take this, but you guys got to, this could be the catalyst. If ES puts in some resistance here, this could be the catalyst to send bonds down to our support area to buy. So I'm going to stay patient here, but those of you who are long ES, be very careful because you got some serious resistance here right now. I think it's overall just, you just got to be careful with stocks right now. I'm hoping ES corrects. I'm not going to short it or anything, but I'm hoping it corrects so that it sets up the long for the bonds. Because if stocks correct, bonds are going to correct as well. Here comes the close. We'll see. It's, ooh, that's a pretty strong close right there. It may squeeze higher without correcting. Anybody's guess, but that was a pretty strong little close right there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the NASDAQ. It's 10 a.m. I haven't put on a trade because, you know, it's definitely a day for caution. Look at the Ultra. Here's the Ultra. Yeah, also kind of unclear, but I think I think I'm gonna have to keep an eye on these things, you guys. It's a very mixed board today. Right now, what I'm seeing across the board, it's a very good day to be flat and just, you know, let the market develop. Crude oil might give us a good pullback. We'll see. Stocks are just I'm just hoping that stocks pull back, because if they do, that means bonds will pull back. Take a look at silver. I'm just going to scroll through all the 4-hourly charts here and see what we got. So I'm here. I'm just kind of looking through everything. Just all it takes is one good one a day. We're like treasure hunters. We need to find it. All right. So here's ES. I mean, it just looks to me like it's squeezing and doesn't show any signs of letting up for now. So for me, I can't really buy it up here, but I can't short it either. It's going to be the same for all the indices. So let's look at the 10-year treasury. Yeah, I think looking at the 10-year, this 4-hourly pattern, I'm kind of just, I'm waiting now today. If stocks keep elevating, it's just going to make the pullback on bonds that much better to buy. So that's what I'm staying patient for. I want to try and see if I, you know, if bonds can push down, if the ultra bond especially can push down into, you know, I mean, the lower the better. Anything from 126, you can see here, you know, it just depends. Anywhere down here, 126.12 would be a gift. And if stocks were staying elevated as bonds dropped, then that would, you know, that with the pattern we're seeing on OMA, on the daily, the weekly, that'd be a good spot to get long the bonds, just like we did Friday afternoon, and make some more money on the bonds to the upside. So I think that's kind of the one I'm sort of holding off for today. The one where I will put some risk on, but it needs to come to me. Here's a gold. Look at this 4-hour chart on gold, right? Just a big outside bar. This is the kind of messy stuff you don't want to deal with. Silver, the same thing. Look at silver here, big outside bar. I mean, this could push back up to 2240 before it rolls over. You just don't know. So metals look messy, and that makes sense. They should look messy with the dollars like pegged to 109.13 against the euro futures. So this is just a beautiful thing where we just use all these charts together. But I think if bonds start correcting, you know, here, which it looks like they are, the ultra's down to 127.1, then probably stocks will correct as well. Or at least, you know, pull back just a little bit. There you go. You can see that was a pretty big snap lower on ES. We just dropped about 4 points in 2 seconds. This is good. This will be the catalyst to bring bonds down a little bit. Those who like scalping, I think, you know, ES is, you know, looking like it probably wants to head back down to 48.80, 48.75. So short side is probably the smart side right now. Just keeping an eye on the scoreboard overall. Remember Lagarde, I don't know if she's still speaking or if she's done, but just something to be aware of. Be nice if stocks could pull back a little bit. That would be the catalyst for bonds to drop. Just kind of keeping my energy here, guys. Just keeping an eye on the scoreboard. And you got ES here now. I think this 48.94 level is kind of key to see if we are going to, you know, try and drop back down. Nasdaq's 17,526. I'm just doing a little bit of scalping for myself on the short side for ES while we wait for the ultra bonds to hopefully set up. You know, I don't call out scalping for you guys because there's just no time on the channel, and that's not the point of it, but you can use the analysis to trade in and out of things while we're waiting. Use your discretion. A lot of support there at 48.90. temporarily. If that 48.90 level breaks, that's, you know, you could see a little snap down to 48.76 for ES. That would be nice. It looks overall like it wants to continue to squeeze a little higher the next few days. It just, you know, looks like it might need to get back a little, but you never know. You know, these things can keep squeezing without pulling back for a long time. We all know that. The bonds right now are at 127.7, so they're not really dropping. Crude's at 74.11. Yeah, silver pushing higher, 22.30, so we'll see. I mean, I think the people who are holding short right now on the indices are getting squeezed. Not fun for them. This is why I like to just wait, be in cash, just use the intermarket correlations, OMA, pick your spots, make your money, and be done. That's why I'm picky, waiting for my right spots, and just kind of putting together the overall, you know, scenario of what we want to happen, and then just wait for that to come to us. And you know, when it does come to you, you know, execute that trade with confidence. Which for me right now is just waiting for a little bit of a pullback on bonds. I just think that that's probably the smartest play for today. Let's look at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ certainly looks weaker than ES. Hopefully the NASDAQ can just try and give us a little bit of a push to the downside so that bonds can follow, set up that long in bonds. Here you're looking at the NASDAQ hourly. $10:11 a.m. Look at this open here. Wow, super choppy. Just a mess. Dow kind of squeezing higher. Wow, big potential. Ooh, look at the Russell really squeezing today. Impressive. I hadn't looked at the Russell, but that's a nice squeeze. The squeeze is on. I don't know if we're going to get that pullback in bonds. I think bonds kind of, you know, everything just looks like it wants to go higher. But I'm waiting because I can see on the volume composite here, I do think we're going to push higher on bonds, but you never know. Stocks could just suddenly shit the bed quickly, and then that's the exact pullback we're waiting for. So I just know that the smartest place to wait to get long the ultra bond is at least down around 24, and that's what I have to wait for. If it goes higher without me, so be it. Gold, yeah, a mess as we covered. Silver, crude stuck at 74.11. Any kind of a pullback on crude would be welcome. See if it does, I don't know, but 73 looks, 73 to 73.50 looks pretty golden all day. Crude oil trader, a lot of support there. Bringing up ES again. I mean, looking at the Dow and the Russell squeezing, I mean, gosh, maybe ES and NASDAQ look like they're going to keep squeezing too, which means bonds will probably just, yeah, you can see bonds are kind of catching up now. So I think that's probably the bonds are going to continue to push higher there. There goes the beautiful family. Got the little one from preschool. I saw them walking by out the window. So yeah, you know, bonds, aggressive traders could have bought that pullback there. I don't mind that I didn't buy it because I'm waiting for, you know, AAA setups that I can go bigger size on. But you can see this stream is going to keep you in the right lanes. That's, you know, what it's all about. And then when the good trades come on that we call, you know, those are the good ones. Look at ES just kind of hanging out, doing nothing. All right, guys, I'm going to take, well, I'll check these 15-minute charts here. And then I might take a 5-10 minute break, but let's just see. We are coming up upon the 10:15 a.m. close. The NASDAQ. I mean, the NASDAQ did enter congestion down on the hourly, so you got a little bit more resistance on the NASDAQ, but I mean, it is squeezing, so be careful. With that said, I wouldn't be surprised to see a pullback, but it's just, you can see it's kind of stuck between longs and shorts here. You got to be careful. I'm just hoping that the indices do pull back and set up that long on the bonds would be awesome. But right now, just choppy. Look at the NASDAQ here. You know, really just all day, super choppy. I think so far, just an excellent day to be flat. Looking across everything here. I'm not looking at anything going, oh, geez, really should have taken that one. No, this is kind of a day that'll chew you up and spit you out. So that's a good day to preserve the capital. I mean, NASDAQ looks like it's kind of on a nice edge up here. You know, this can dance around here all day until you finally get a crack lower in stocks, which will cause the crack lower in bonds. That could happen at 1 o'clock this afternoon, right? Like, I can't sit here and stream all day and wait for that, but I'm going to tee this up for you guys here before I leave, because I might leave soon just because I'm tired and sick today, and it is a choppy, you know, no news day, so I might as well save my energy for tomorrow. But before I leave you guys, you know, just know, I'll just go through stuff again. You know, stocks, I think, are the dangerous play up here, long or short. But I'm waiting for stocks. If stocks can correct a little bit, that could give me a little bit of a move back down to support on the ultra bonds. If it never comes, it never comes. That's fine. But I'm really interested in the ultra bonds, you know, down around 126, you know, the low 126.20s down in here. Metals, I would just avoid like the plague today. They look very choppy, and they look like an excellent spot to lose money if that's your thing. Crude looks, I think, you know, if okay, so let's say metals stay away. I'm leaving this with you guys because I'm actually going to go soon, just because there's no need to stand here and keep streaming. Metals, I would avoid. The dollar, you know, the euro is putting in a little bit of a rally now against the dollar. So if bonds keep pushing higher and we don't get the pullback we're waiting for in bonds, and stocks don't pull back but don't go higher, kind of sit there, I think the, you know, crude is the one to potentially watch and just see if you can get a pullback on crude anywhere into the mid 73s or lower. As long as, you know, if that happens, keep your eye on the dollar, and as long as the euro is, you know, steady or putting on ground against the dollar, and stocks are staying elevated and bonds are pushing higher, which means yields are coming down, then I think crude would be a good buyback. A good buy into support under that, you know, those circumstances. So that's what I'd be looking for. Those are kind of my two main scenarios for the day that I'm going to leave you guys with. Unfortunately, we didn't get a, you know, an official trade on stream, but hey, some days those will come, you know, 2 or 3 at a time, and some days they just won't come. Today they didn't come, but I'm going to be watching the charts. I'm going to be trading, but I want to leave this with you guys. So I hope you've had a good day. Please do like, share, subscribe. And, you know, for the OMA Elite members, I probably won't post anything in the market commentary section today just because I'm ill. If I see something outstanding, obviously I'll post it for you guys. But other than that, just a good day to exercise caution and, you know, just keep an eye on those potential scenarios that I laid out. All right. Take care, everybody. And I will be back at 7:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. We'll just take it one step at a time, one day at a time. Take care.